Good afternoon, everyone. We're here again, and I'm Elena. I'm from Tri-Cities. I'll be with you for the next 2 hours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. I should say it's good afternoon because it's no longer morning. I just caught that. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to be here with us. Once again, we appreciate your time and your support. I am Veronica. I'm from Tri-Cities.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for your support and for joining us today. I'm Liana, and I'm here from Tacoma. So thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anastasio Lepe, interpreter from Washington State, Yakima to be exact. I want to welcome everyone once again to our podcast. We're going to be here, like Elena said, 2 hours. Hopefully they're very fun and very informative for everyone. So welcome aboard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining in. I'm Juan Medina Blois, and part of the team as well, Washington Interpreters. We're going to be here with you for the next couple of hours. And like Anastasia said, we hope that you find this fun and most importantly, informational. So let's get started. So, we're going to have, different sections on our program. Anastasia and I will be going through that real quick for a couple of minutes. So we do have COVID-19 resources. I did prepare a video that's going to talk about, the process of accepting the EIDL loan. For those of you or those interpreters that applied for the EIDL loan, this is going to be very informative. And then we're going to have dealing with depression during COVID-19. Anastasia, do you want to, talk a little bit about what that's going to be for?
Yes, we'll be having Pastora Hernandez Barbee with us once again. She's actually watching the broadcast right now. She'll be joining us shortly as soon as her segment begins. Once again, she will be giving us more tips, more recommendations on how to deal with all the difficulties that are rising from the COVID-19 and maybe some additional resources, as I understand, for maybe the current civil unrest and situations that we're also living through at this moment.
Definitely. Then right after that, we're going to go through PERC's election process. As many of you know, some of you are not very aware of it, and this is the reason why we're doing this. We are in the middle of a campaign, and we, Washington Interpreters, as an organization, we're trying to represent LNI interpreters. And so we're going to walk you through PERC's website and the election process a little bit. I'll be sharing the camera and showing you what that looks like. And then right after that, we're going to have our guests from the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees. I surmise that if you're here watching this with us, joining us this morning, you got the email invite. And, Anastasia, can you tell the audience, what we have experienced from just interacting with these representatives and what they can expect today?
Yes, of course. I guess the word that comes to my mind is inspiration. I've been personally inspired by their story, by what's happened to them, what they've been able to accomplish, how they did it. I'm eager to see them here with us and talking about how they came about forming their guild and everything that they went through. We are currently going through very similar circumstances. We have gone through similar circumstances, or maybe even worse. But I really want to see what they have to say. I want to share that with everyone. I think we can all learn from what they did and what they're doing.
Definitely. Then after that, we'll be engaging the audience with questions and answers. And so thank you again for joining in. Right now, at this point, we're going to go through the first part of our program this morning. So I'm going to be sharing the screen shortly right here to share with you a short video. It's going to be about 11 minutes. And this video talks about the EIDL loan and what to do when you receive an invitation from the Small Business Administration to accept this loan. What are the steps when they email you with the approval. And so there is a lady that's very knowledgeable, a CPA, that's going to be talking about this, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Just give me a minute so I could share the screen.
Turn up the volume a little bit. I see some comments here that people can't hear us very well on the comment chat.
Right. I'll be adjusting those. Hopefully you can hear me now. I'll be adjusting those in a minute. Sorry about that.
And if we can mute our mics in the meantime.
Sounds good.
Hey guys, today we're talking about the EIDL loan process and what you need to do to accept the loan and some considerations along the way. If you've gotten that email directly from the SBA that says your loan is approved and you need to go and set up an account, this is what this video is about. I'm going to walk through my process because I got that same email and I was like, hey, why not just go through it with you so you can see exactly the decisions that you need to make along the way so you can be prepared for that when it comes. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel because we've got a lot more content coming around for the EIDL and the PPP program. And I'm just so thankful that you're here and that you're watching. All right, let's get going. Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is you are going to get an email directly from the SBA, and it's going to look something
Juan, we can't hear you.
The volume went out about 6-7 seconds ago, Juan. Bear with us, everyone. I'm sure that Juan will get the volume back on track. We appreciate your patience.
Hello.
Broadcasting live has its technical difficulties sometimes, but I believe he's back.
Hi. So yes, I'm back. I'm actually looking through it, and thank you for letting me know. We'll see what we could do real quick to adjust this. Sometimes this happens live, so bear with us, please, and thank you for your patience. So I'll try to replay this video now. Just give me a minute, please.
to accept the loan and some considerations along the way. If you've gotten that email directly from the SBA that says your loan is approved and you need to go and set up an account, this is what this video is about. I'm going to walk through my process because I got that same email and I was like, hey, why not just go through it with you so you can see exactly the decisions that you need to make along the way so you can be prepared for that when it comes. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel because we've got a lot more content coming around for the EIDL and the PPP program. And I'm just so thankful that you're here and that you're watching. All right, let's get going. Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is you are going to get an email directly from the SBA, and it's going to look something kind of like this. So it's going to say something about creating your SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Portal account, and it's going to have a big green button, and you're going to be able to click on that, and that's going to open you up to essentially a login page. So you will set up a username and a password, and that will get you into the SBA portal to get you started with your loan. So we've taken a little screenshot of exactly what the email looks like here, and blurred out anything that was a little bit sensitive. So, but I did want you to see this first step because this is pretty important. This is what you're looking for. Make sure that any SBA communication, that you make sure that it is from a correct domain name, sba.gov, and just be careful with your clicking on links and whatnot, okay? And then after that, you will log in, and then we're going to get to what the actual portal looks like. All right, now that we are in the portal, this gives us our business profile over here on the side, which we're blocking out, and then it says how much we're eligible for. Okay, so this is way more money than I ever want to have in a loan. So they have the option to reduce it. So you can go into this little button right here. This is a hyperlink, and you can go to review and accept the amount. And here, this is kind of cool. You can slide this bar to what the exact amount that you need. I mean, you can do it down to the hundreds. So check it out. Take a look here. Now, a couple things I want to point out to you. One thing is that you will notice the terms that are down here. All of the loans are 30 years. We don't get to change that, which is a little bit unfortunate because 30 years is a really long time for a business loan. I wouldn't recommend taking 30 years to pay off this payment, to pay off this loan. I would like to see most business loans paid off within 5 years. So if you don't think you can pay off this amount in 5 years, you might want to reconsider the amount you're taking, okay? You can pay extra principal when you go to start repaying your loan, all right? And then the interest rate on all the loans is 3.75, unless you're a nonprofit, I believe. They are 2.75. There might be a couple other that have that lower interest rate. It will be a monthly payment, but it won't start for a year, okay? 12 months after closing. Now, you'll also want to see that there's a third-party filing fee, but only if you get above $25,000. And if you look here, you can see this is changing as I slide this bar. So you can see, okay, if I take $13,600, my payment amount is $67. If I take $67,600, my payment would be $330 a month, okay? And this is a monthly payment amount down here. Now, what you'll see is that once you cross over, so here's 24,000. There's zero third-party filing fee, but once you cross over that $25,000 threshold, there's a $100 third-party filing fee, and that will be taken out of your loan proceeds directly. Okay. One thing to note too is that loans over $25,000 do require collateral, and that is kind of a big deal. So if you don't want to if you don't have anything, or you can't put anything, or you just don't want to put anything up for collateral, you will probably want to keep your loan below $25,000. All right. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to point out there. Double check and make sure all your information is correct from your application or in your business profile. And once you have selected the right amount, you just click accept. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that there's a couple things you need to think about when you're thinking about how much money to get for the EIDL loan. A lot of people don't really know, so they might just take the max amount just in case. Now, sometimes that means you might be accepting a loan that's way, way, way more than you need. And this loan starts accruing interest right when you get it. So that first year where you're not making any payments, you're also accruing interest. Even though it's a very low interest loan, it still means that you're going to have a significant cost over that first year. All right. So it's something to consider, and you just don't want to take tons of extra money that you don't see yourself ever really needing. All right. So think about a couple things. You might want to look at, since remember this loan is all about, using the money for working capital, things in operations, things to keep your business in operations. So you might want to do a couple things. You might want to first look at your last 12 months P&L. And I like to pull it by month so I can look and see what my average operating costs are, which you go down and you look at your expenses or your operating expenses on your profit and loss statement and see what that number is. Is it consistently $50,000? Is it consistently $30,000? Is it $15,000 one month and then $25,000 the next month? Average that number out so that you can say, okay, like on average, I spend $45,000 a month just keeping my business going. And if that's the case, then you can say, okay, well, I know I'm bringing in $20,000 a month because business is down. I know I'm bringing in 20, but to operate at full capacity, I need 45. Then that gives you an idea of where your gap is. So you might consider taking a couple months of liquidity, couple months of this loan to help you kind of get over and get back into normal operations. Now, that is totally a business decision. You do need to do this analysis on your own. I'm happy to help you. If you want to do that, you can book a clarity call with me. But really, you need to be talking this over with your financial professionals, somebody who knows your business. Look it over with your professionals and make sure that you guys are being strategic about the money here, because you don't want too much, but you also don't want it to where it's not enough. Because once we sign these loan documents, there's not going to be another round and another option and another edit to this. Okay. Once they issue your loan, it's going to be kind of done. So make sure you're happy with the amount. The other thing you might want to consider too is look at your balance sheet and see if there is any debt, current debt, say maybe payables to vendors or maybe credit cards that you need to pay off, and determine if there's any of that you want to use this EIDL money for. Okay, so maybe that's a total of $20,000 on top of the operating expenses that you know you want to cover. So keep that in mind as well, as that is a legitimate use of these funds. And do also consider that maybe your accounts payable might not be properly on your balance sheet. If you are reporting on a cash basis and you're not putting those bills into your accounting system, you might not be tracking those. So you might want to just go and do a quick review of your financials, go look at wherever you keep bills and see kind of what's outstanding right now, what would be helpful to pay off with this money. And once you're done with that, you can find that number and then you can request that amount of the loan. I also would say, I don't think that there's any way to accept more money or to ask for more money besides the maximum amount that they've been giving you. So, I mean, maybe if you called the SBA, they might have some other way to do that, but there's no way on this right now to get additional money over what your max amount was. So my max was 86. I couldn't ask for 100,000 in this portal. All right. Now you could call the number and you could see if there's any way to reapply or do something else, but this was on the financials that were. So I don't think that they're going to increase the loan amount any more than what's there. Now I'm surprised with how high these loan numbers are that I've been seeing. So, you know, that's something to consider as well. You may almost everybody may have maybe offered too much money. So just keep that in mind. Okay. And then once you click accept, you need to confirm the amounts, or then you can still change the amount. Once you click accept, it's not the end of the world. So I definitely don't want to do 25,000. So it's not the end of the world. You can go back and adjust it. All right. And then once you're ready, you can click accept. All right, once you go ahead and determine how much money you need and you accept that, you need to then go in and verify your identity. And this is really similar to a credit check or something where they ask you, who do you know? What street have you ever lived on? Or what school did you go to? This is basically where it's looking back in your credit history and verifying you. So they're going to ask you a couple.
Did you know that you can fund yourself $50,000 to $150,000 on a brand
questions there. All right, so once you have verified your identity and double checked your electronic disbursement, which is your bank details, once you've checked all that off, then you can go ahead and submit for processing. So I have already clicked that button and it says your application is being processed. And then what I imagine is that after that is done, then you will sign the closing documents to finally accept and put your John Hancock on everything, and then you will get funded. All right, so the other step I wanted to mention to you guys is a couple days after the initial application, then I received another email that said your SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan application is approved. And when I clicked on the green button again, the email looked very similar to that first one. Clicked on the green button and I logged in, and then it now allowed me to sign closing documents, okay? So once you get to this point, this means that you actually have a loan, you have the funding, and you just need to finish up with the application and signing the loan documents. And then from there, I've been hearing that it's been taking at least 5 business days after the signing of documents to get your funds. So please just give a little bit of patience. It's not going to be an immediate process on that. All right, so that is the process. I hope that's helpful to you, and let me know if you run into anything crazy. One thing that happened to me is during the verify identity process, it said it was not able to verify me online, but then after I clicked the status, my answers were correct. I could clearly tell they were correct. But once I clicked status, then it said that this was completed. So let me know if you're having any issues with this as well. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you being here. Please give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. All right. Bye.
We're back on.
All right, we're back on. Thank you, guys. Hopefully that was informational. We're going to go through the next segment now.
I would like to take the time now to present Pastora to everyone. Pastora is a mental health counselor from the Olympia area. She's originally from Nicaragua. She has given a webinar with us in the past, treating in mental health settings. Today, she will be doing mental health, dealing with depression during COVID-19 to help everyone some tips and recommendations on how to get through these hard times that we're going through right now. One very important thing about her, she is also an interpreter, so she understands our struggles firsthand. She's been an interpreter before becoming a mental health counselor, so she's very familiar with our struggles. Another thing I would like to point out is she is also very well known for standing up for what she believes in, which is one thing that I just love about her. I'll turn it over to Pastora now. Take it away, Pastora.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me again. Is the sound okay?
Sounds
okay.
good.
I hear at the end as like if I'm in the ocean. I don't know if you guys are hearing that.
There's a slight
feedback.
Okay. There's a slight feedback.
Okay. I just want to make sure that if like the mindfulness practice that I've been doing maybe is sending me too much to the ocean. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't projecting on that. Well, I wanted to start, guys, asking everyone for a moment of silence and to honor what's going on right now, to honor the death of George Floyd, and to recognize that police brutality and racism is real, and that we all need to address that. And I would like to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. It's really an honor and a pleasure for me to be part of this and being helpful in anything I can, be helpful. I wanted to share some like I would like to talk today about depression and how to deal with depression during COVID, but not necessarily during COVID, right? I was checking with one yesterday that there's a lot of grieving right now, right? Many communities are grieving, many people are grieving. We are grieving not only, COVID, right? And how COVID came and altered our life in so many different ways. Now we also are beginning to grieve, and kind of like becoming this more evident, right, outside, because I haven't talked to anyone that hasn't been affected by either by COVID or either by what's going on right now, right? And so we need to recognize those things. One thing that I wanted to check, and I know we're gonna be kind of short on time, so I was thinking that maybe I want to actually have more like people asking for specific things instead of me just like going. But I would like to have, if the first beginning for the panelists, if you guys have any specific questions about, what would you like to know, how you guys are processing, right, all these, what are you feeling, then what is the things that you are feeling, because depression can be presented in so many different ways, and we all deal with things completely different. That's why we are individuals, right? And that's why when working in mental health, it's not like a cookie cutter treatment or not a cookie cutter, approach, because everybody has their specific needs. So depression, how it looks for me, it can be, it can look completely different for Anastasio, right? So, for example, depression usually comes in different forms, different colors, but it starts for like, how are you feeling, right? Maybe you are losing interest in things that you were doing before. You're feeling sad, you're feeling like really not motivated, or even actually it can also be like demonstrating or being irritated, right, or being upset. That's also a sign of depression. But not necessarily like you're gonna go into a full depression, but you just like think about all the things that are going around us and how all these things are affecting us. So um, first we have to feel, right? We need to let those feelings come in and recognize that those feelings exist. Like if you are angry, right? If you're upset, if you are irritated, if you're sad, if you are like maybe like numbing, or numb, or trying to numb your feelings with different things that you can be doing, like alcohol, drugs, and all these things. So first of all, recognize what are the things that you are feeling. Second, it will be like holding space, right? Like how um, we can find people that we can just say, hey, I've been feeling like this, or what do you think about that? I call this like finding the allies, right? Finding your allies and how these people also can be your resource to support you. And for example, if someone comes to you, Anastasia or Juan, and someone says, hey guys, I've been very overwhelmed about, I'm not getting enough uh, appointments, right? I don't know how I'm going to make it at the end of the month. And so all these things obviously begin to affect us, right? Because it begins with our worriness. So I wanna offer that space, right? That we can offer that space for people, even if we disagree sometimes in what people might come and tell us. Just holding that space for people can be really, really helpful. And so that thing can be open, for more dialogue and uh, for having the ability to express what we're feeling. Other things that we can do is kind of be grateful, practice gratitude, right? Like uh, I would say, like in the morning when you wake up, try to think about what are you grateful for, right? Wake up, see the sunshine or see the clouds or whatever, but you say, telling to yourself, I'm grateful for today, and think about the today as the opportunity to do something, right? Yesterday, we're not going to have much control of what happened yesterday. We're not going to have control about what's going to happen tomorrow, but we're going to have control of what is happening with me today. And so begin by, with yourself, like asking yourself what I'm grateful for today. Where in my body I'm feeling this, right? Where in, like, what are the things that are affecting in my, entire being? Because our mind and our body are completely connected. The other thing I wanted to also add is talking to the kids, talking to your kids, right? We cannot forget our kids. Kids are also processing, and one kid can be just like spending the entire day playing video games, and we think that it's a waste of time. Maybe that kid is also trying to process, in a different world, and trying to understand how is this affecting me. So let's don't forget about our kids. Let's don't forget about our neighbors. I think this is a time where all can be, like I said before, like finding our allies, right? And finding that person that we can say, hey, this is how I've been feeling today. But we cannot tell someone else how we feel if we don't first recognize that this is the feeling that I'm feeling, right? First of all, I need to accept and recognize that this is the feeling and the situation that I'm going through. So after that, we can be open to more conversation. I wanted to open the space for people that wanted to ask me. I prefer when people actually come and not ask me, or even though I might not have all the answers, but I think it's not about me and my experience and how I process things. To me, it's like how can I be a tool and a resource for people. So if we, someone is asking about physical activities. Okay, well, physical activities, yes, long walks. Again, it depends of what it works for you, right? To release stress, we were talking about stress. Um, uh, to release stress, some people can release stress punching a bag, right? A boxing bag. I'm one of them. I have two in my garage. So when I'm stressed, I go and punch my bag until I'm tired, pretty much. I go also for long runs when I'm very stressed. And again, what do you feel in your body, right? For example, for me, when I'm feeling that I'm stressed, I begin to have cold symptoms. So I don't know if for you guys works like that, but I've heard people that said I like for female, right? Like some women have told me I feel like if I'm having my period, right? It's all related where in your body stress is shown. So physical activities, yeah, running, walking, mindfulness, meditation, listening to music. Some people say, okay, so I can listen to heavy rock, heavy metal, and I'm like, not necessarily, but because what we're trying is to calm our mind, right? And I usually say when we calm our mind, we open our heart, right? Our heart cannot be open if our mind is everywhere. So I think we first need to be grounded, right? Kind of be grounded. First, we need to know where we are. Um, Food, um, vegetables, I believe, are a good source of happiness. But again, it's things, we have to go into kind of be into the cautious, right? The cautiousness, or like be careful about. I think we touched base on that last time about, am I eating because I'm hungry, or am I eating because I'm stressed, right? So that's the first question. I think more than what food you're gonna eat, is like ask yourself, am I putting this in my mouth because I'm hungry, or simply because I'm stressed and food is like my coping skill that I have, right? So that would be one. One thing that I can say though is avoid alcohol. Avoid, things that can kind of in some way alter the perception that you're having, because we can have alcohol every day, but guess what, the stress or the problem is not going to go away. It's just going to continue, right? And there's many research that's shown that how alcohol, drugs, and tobacco, you know can affect our mood as well. So it's not new to know that adding all these substances only are going to add to our problem. um, for insomnia, well, for insomnia, um, things that I would like, again, it's about calming the mind, right? If you cannot sleep, ask yourself, why are you not sleeping, right? I had someone the other day that said, I don't know what, I just don't want to sleep because when I'm asleep, I'm afraid that something is going to happen. And so there we go, right? We need to figure out what's the trigger that this person thought that something is going to happen, right? And so after that, we can figure out what are the things that what are the things that you're avoiding. So I like to use also positive affirmations. Again, in the morning, the first thing that you can do in the morning is just like love yourself. Like, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else, right? So forgive, yes, forgive yourself for anything that you think you might have done wrong, because also that can cause us, like guilt, depression, stuff like that. But positive affirmation are very important, even just by, I use like these little cards here. I usually, like for example, in the morning, I see my face in the mirror and I said, you're amazing. You are gonna, you're bold, you're sincere, you're adaptable. But in this case, I will say I am, right? Using the I statement is very important. So refer to you as that person and say, I'm, all the positive affirmations that you want to, come up with. I'm confident, I'm strategic, I'm pleasant, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm creative, I'm assertive. So, and also like when you are with your family, talk about what is safety for you, right? grab, your family, and let's talk about safety. Let's talk about like kind of repeating, like checking with each other, especially now with the COVID thing. Even though things are beginning to open up, um, but still, keep checking in. I think that's one of the first things that we can do after we say our positive affirmation and gratitude in the mornings. Is like check in. Hey, how are you doing? I have this week people asking me how I was doing, and I realized I caught myself just doing it as a routine. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, until I realized no, I'm not good. I'm actually very concerned about the things that are going on around. I'm concerned for our communities. I'm concerned for, friends. And so again, it's kind of going back to, are we doing this because we want to please someone else? Or are we doing this because we actually first need to address our own feelings? So yesterday when someone asked me at work, how are you doing? I said, you know what? I'm not doing well. It's the last day of the week, but I feel that it's like the first day. So after I did that, I was able to actually process. And the thing with depression, anxiety, and grieving and all this is about processing. It's not about, oh, here is your recipe, go and try it, or here's your magic pill, go and enjoy it. Right? It's not about that. Um, so I would like to invite our other interpreters that are in the call for them to participate and ask questions. So what is it here? How do we cope with living in a fearful community? Again, so I think that it has to do with holding space, right? Hold space. Because everybody is gonna be able, when we hold space, people feel safe, right? If I know that I'm gonna talk to someone and that person immediately shut me down, do you think I'm gonna feel safe to keep going? Probably not. So let's hold space for people that come to us and kind of wanna address something. We might not resolve the issue, but maybe just by hearing or listening to someone's voice, we can help a lot to that person. Should we give our routines a second look? Elaborate. What do you mean? Should we give our routines a second look? What do you mean by that?
I posed that question on the chat. What I mean by that is that some of us have a lot of time on our hands right now. Some of us are not as busy as others working, and our routines have been changed. So maybe we're so used to being in a certain routine always that now we're caught by surprise, maybe by the changes and maybe the extra amount of time or something like that.
I would say be creative. And be creative, we talk about like routines and habits as the same thing. They're not the same thing. Routines is that we drive, we have specific things that we follow. And the habit, I don't know if you have had the experience that you were supposed to go to a place, right? And you had the habit and the routine part of like doing that thing that way, that you ended up going to the same place that you actually didn't have to go, right? And you ended up going to that clinic and you're like, what am I doing here? I'm driving towards the same on the same route, which in reality I don't need to go there. I need to go to a block, after that or whatnot. So we do things routinely, and also we have habits that they're not, they might overlap, but they're not interchangeable. And you know what? I a good example of this, I like to do this analogy about habits is there was a horse, right? There was this farmer that had a horse, or it was a mule. I don't remember if it was a mule, but it was a horse that was tied up all the time in a pole. So this animal never moved. He was fed. He was, he had everything that he needed there, but he wasn't free. So the farmer one time freed the animal. Do you think the animal left? He didn't have any change anymore. he didn't have chains, but he didn't realize, he was so used to, and the habit for him was just to be there. He died there feeling, thinking that he was still chained up and he was free. So kind of my invitation is like, free your mind from those chains, right? Free your body from those chains that keep you tied up into things that maybe don't serve the purpose anymore, right? Invite change, welcome change. Change is really good. So routines, yeah, routines can be changed. Habits, it takes like 10,000 practice to build a habit. So it will take 10,000 times practicing to get rid of that habit. So that's about, making the conscious decision about what things you are going to change. So anybody else from the audience that wants to ask something?
If anybody has any questions in the audience, feel free to post it in our live comment section. We will be reading them so Pastora can answer them.
In the meantime, guys, we have two big situations still going on. One is kind of, I feel COVID is still on, but it's kind of fading away because that's how things are, right? One overpasses the other one. We have the social unrest that is going on too. And who knows how long it's gonna last, but the same thing, right? Holding the space for people. That's pretty much what we are. And it seems like this 2020 it's gonna be intense. I don't know if the planets are aligning against us or it's just gonna be like a big change happening. But so think about your own change as a personal individual, and because I also believe that when we don't address our own issues as individuals, we're not gonna be able to do it as a collective. So we need to first come up, in the same. We need to come up with who we are, and then we go to the collective. We have someone. Social unrest and economical issues. Yeah, people is tired. Don't you see a correlation too about COVID and people being all inside? Losing jobs, not having how to pay, rent, not having how to, the no knowing. People is very stressed out right now. And what is the outlet, right? So the outlet is that we need to just like yell and scream on the streets. If that's the way that we're gonna go, well, I don't have control of that. I only have control of what I can do for, what part I can do on this. Was someone there wanting to ask something?
So far, we haven't had anybody ask any more questions other than the ones you have already answered. We did have Luna wanted to share that she does use unwinding music for her and her 6-year-old. I don't know if you would like to add anything else to that.
Yeah. Again, as I was saying, right? Let's don't forget our kids, and everything is gonna be, let's treat our kids as individuals as well. I know, we also have kids that have been in our house for like 4 months now, right? But that's our job as a parent. We love our kids, but we would like them maybe be 1 hour out, right? So I get it, right? I'm a parent. But yeah, again, embrace your kids. Talk to your kids about what's happening, because they're gonna know it one way or another one. It's like when we talk to our kids about drugs, alcohol, sex, right? Do you want your kids to hear it from you, or do you want them to learn it, from who knows, right? So I think it's the right time to talk to kids about social issues. Talk about what are your fears about what's going on. What do you know? Let me answer the best way I can, right? So I think unwinding or reading, it's a good way, to talk to kids about what's going on.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Thank you, Pastora. I think you started the segment on the right foot, and you ended it. We might end it on the perfect foot by saying that we have to be grateful.
Right.
If we start with that gratitude, we got to end with that gratitude. And if we wake up in the morning, I think we're on the best path. You should be grateful for that already. I think we have a whole day of opportunity to build upon, and we should focus on that.
That's right. And yeah, so I think that's kind of like where I want to go for. Gratitude, resiliency. Guys, this is, I don't know how to say this one in English, but in Spanish it's like, no hay mal que dure 100 años, ni cuerpo que lo resista. How do you say that in English?
That's a good one. You're gonna catch us all interpreters by surprise. Put them all in the
Okay.
spot.
Yeah, all my Spanish interpreters, can you help me to translate that or to interpret that?
That's some homework there.
It's from a poem.
Oh, definitely. It's a phrase that there's definitely an equivalent, and it's not
Yeah.
occurring to me. But does anybody have the direct translation for that?
Well, I could try. I would say there is no hardship that could last 100 years, or anybody or a body that can endure it. Maybe?
Right. Yeah. So pretty much that we build, we have to go through a lot of processes, right? So the idea is that you build resiliency. So things are gonna pass. Things have a beginning and have an end. This is the yin and yang, right? So for every cycle that ends, another one begins. So it continues, and that's how life is. And life is not a straight line, right? Life goes everywhere. So I want to end with that note, and just like say that if you guys can, repeat with me right now, like saying, I'm safe, I'm grounded, I'm grateful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastora.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
All righty. That was really good. It's always an honor and a privilege to have you here with us, Pastora. Thank you so much again for volunteering your time, devoting, a little bit of your resources, for us and for all interpreters to listen to in this time of need. I think, this is very valuable for all of us. So thank you again, and we hope to have you back with us soon. All righty. So we're going to jump into the next section of our program today. And so what we have for you guys right now is we're going to talk about PERC's election process. Okay. And I'll have the banner right here so you guys understand what we're doing. And so as many of you are aware of, we are in the middle of a campaign to represent Illini interpreters. We have WFC, Washington Federation of State Employees, or Local 1671, the local union that represents DSPS interpreters, trying to represent Illini interpreters. And we have gone through this process before about how we came to be in existence, Washington Interpreters. We are also another labor union organization trying to represent Illini interpreters. At some point, there's going to be an election, and we all have to make a choice privately. But, I want to share with you, I'll be sharing the screen, and I'll go to PERC's website, Public Employment Relations Commission, and we're going to go to their website to read a little bit about how that election process looks like. So you have an idea, because this is going to prepare us for the last segment of our programming today, which is our guests from the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees. But before we do that, we're going to go a few minutes showing you PERC's website. If you please give me a minute, and forgive us for technical difficulties. Give me a minute. Thanks. All righty, can you guys see the page right here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is PERC. If you read with me right here, PERC stands for Public Employment Relations Commission, and this is the state agency that's in charge of conducting elections for a variety of things. But what we're going to focus right now is on union representation, right? And so I just want to read to you a couple of paragraphs real quick. These paragraphs are just to illustrate to you a little bit of employee rights. This is going to be very brief. It says right here, employee rights, if you read with me, okay? Public employees in Washington State have the right to organize for the purpose of collective bargaining. Employees have certain rights from the date a petition is filed until certification or case closure, okay? As an employee, you have the right to form, join, or assist labor or employee organizations, bargain collectively through a representative of your choice, pretty much what we're looking to do right here. And 3, refuse to pay dues to a union unless you have affirmatively agreed to make such payments. So we wanted to read this to you. So this is going to serve as an introduction of the organizing section that we'll read from PERC. And just for the purposes of clarification, we language access providers, interpreters, we are considered public employees. The governor, per Senate Bill 6245, the governor is our employer for the purposes of collective bargaining. We have talked about this before. We'll share some links about it as well. So we're going to go to new organizing right here to illustrate the process that it's going to be conducted for this election that we're trying to achieve. So it says right here, new organizing, okay? A petition for new organizing may only be filed by a labor organization to, number 1, form a new bargaining unit of currently unrepresented employees or add unrepresented employees to an existing bargaining unit. So what we're trying to do is the first right here, form a new bargaining unit, okay, of currently unrepresented employees. As you may know, or if you're not aware of, interpreters that cover jobs, with the Department of Labor and Industries, whether it is through independent contracting, directly contracting with LNI, or through a language agency, we do not have a union that represents us. So that's what we're trying to look for. That's what we're trying to do as Washington interpreters, okay? Before you file, a petition for new organizing can be filed at any time if PERC has not issued a certification involving the employees within the previous 12 months, okay? And then this is the part where we, talk to you about signing our cards, and this is what concerns, your involvement at this time as interpreters, as workers. A petition must include showing of interest cards. We're going to be sharing our card later. A petition must include showing of interest cards from at least 30% of the employees in the proposed bargaining unit. A showing of interest card states an individual employee's desire to be represented. Each card must be signed and dated within 1 year of the petition filing date, must be kept confidential, and must not be shared with the employer. So I know this is a mouthful. You can read it at your own time. On your own time, we're going to be sharing the link. But basically, right now, we are in the process of collecting everybody's signature saying, hey, we want Washington interpreters to be on the ballot for the upcoming election. And when we reach 30% of those signatures, or any union that reaches 30% first, that union can request or file for an election, okay? And for the purposes of not going a lot through, a lot of reading, then there can be an intervening union. Any other union that wants to be competing in the election can file by submitting 10% of these showing of interest cards. I just wanted to let you know that. So whenever that happens, we will have an election, okay? There is no set date for this election. It's whenever a union reaches 30% first, then the process begins. It's not a process that's going to be done in 1 or 2 weeks, but that's how it begins. I hope this is clear. This is a sample of a showing of interest card, and of course, we're going to be showing our card, okay? Then how to file. Email, fax, or deliver a completed representation petition from any other documents to PERC and all parties as required by the Washington Administrative Code, right here, the show of interest cards must be filed only with PERC, and that's pertaining to the union that's going to file the election. Okay, so what happens, let's say after, when we reach 30% of the cards, which we hope to do pretty soon, we're pretty much, we're going to give you some details about it later. But what happens when a union reaches 30% and they file? Well, after you file, okay, this is the next process. The employer, in this case, our employer for the purposes of collective bargaining is the Department of Labor and Industries. We're public employees, meaning that we're not employees, we're just quasi-employees because we're independent contractors, but they are our employees for the purposes of this election. Our employer, sorry, the Department of Labor and Industries. So it says right here, the employer has 10 days to provide the following information to PERC. Number one, a list of eligible employees, which must be submitted as a separate attachment. Two, the identification of any eligibility challenges, okay? Part-time, supervisor, confidential. And three, additional information or documents such as organizational charts, okay? So that's the main point right here, is that the employer, LNI, has to provide PERC with, number one, a list of eligible employees. In our case, it means, that PERC, the Department of Labor and Industries has to provide PERC with a list of interpreters or language access providers that would qualify to vote in this election, okay? And then all unions participating in the election will have access to this list, okay? That's the next process. Then verification of showing of interest. It says right here, upon receipt of the list of employees, PERC will compare the list to the showing of interest cards to verify the petition, is supported by at least 30% of the employees. So they're going to match these cards, okay, to make sure that it's supported by at least 30% of the employees. If the petition has less than 30%, is untimely, or has any other deficiency, PERC will issue a deficiency notice, which may allow an opportunity to correct the deficiency within 14 days. So basically, this is telling us, let's say we file for 30% with 30% of signatures, right? And then PERC will match those to the list of eligible interpreters. If by any chance we fall short or there is a discrepancy, we have 14 days to get those signatures, collect those, or correct any deficiencies. Hope that makes sense. Now, filing additional cards or correcting a deficiency, it has to be submitted by email to PERC, okay? Then I'm not going to go through all of these links, but this is very important, okay? It says right here, when more than, this is election by card check, which is something that was believed before, and I even believed this when I was actually organizing with WOOFC, but this is not the case anymore. It says when more than 50% of employees sign showing of interest cards, a card check is conducted, okay? PERC requests employer records containing the employee's signatures. The signatures on those records are compared to the signatures on the showing of interest cards. Each matching signature counts as a vote in support of representation. No ballots are sent to employees. So basically, we have been believing since a couple of years ago that whatever union reaches 50%, half of the employees eligible to vote plus one, then they by default with a card check count can win the election. But I want to, scroll down a little bit. So you see an exception right here. It says the following types of employees cannot have an election by card check. And we have as a last, list of employees ourselves, language access providers. Okay, so we cannot have an election by card check by just counting, like how many cards we got. And if we got 50% of cards plus one, then we automatically win. That's not the case anymore. I know there were other groups that were, spreading that information. But as you see from PERC's website, this is not the case. What we're going to have is an election by mail ballot, okay? And this is one of the last items that I'll read before jumping to the next section. It says when less than 50% of employees sign showing of interest cards, PERC will conduct an election. The election may be conducted by mail ballot, electronically, or telephonically. PERC will send ballots and voting instructions to the employees. Ballot choices include the petitioning union, no representation, and, if applicable, an intervening union if somebody else qualifies for, competing in the ballot. Employees will return the mail ballots to PERC. Any employee who does not return a ballot has not voted, okay? Returned ballots are tallied on the election date indicated on the posted notice. The election is determined by a majority of ballots returned. If there were two choices on the ballot, a tie vote will result in no representation being certified. If there were more than two choices, a runoff election, this runoff election may occur. The tally results are sent to the representatives on the case. So that's something that I wanted to highlight to you guys before we jump to the next section, which I wanna share this last piece of information with you that it'll help us to segue into our next section. And it says browse recent decisions or additions right here, and I'm gonna click on the City of Bellingham decision, okay, that will highlight our friends from the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees. As you see right here, the collection, it says decisions, date May 21st, and it says case type certification. And we want you to see this, so you see that these our friends that are going to be with us shortly won this selection against AFSCME Council 2, right? It says right here, Jael Komac, Organizing Director for the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees. What does it say right here? Certification by election. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but real quick findings of fact. The Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees filed a representation petition concerning employees of the City of Bellingham. The Public Employment Relations Commission, PERC, determined the petition was timely filed and accompanied by a sufficient showing of interest, okay? Now, it says right here, the Washington State Council of County and City Employees, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Local 114 is the incumbent labor organization that represented, as in the past, the petition for employees and was granted status as intervener in these proceedings. The bargaining unit last certified in City of Bellingham decision 144 is described as follows. All regular and non-uniformed public employees except the professional engineers in the engineering department, professional librarians, planners, assistant planners, city attorneys, and mayor's confidential secretaries, as per RCW, such of the City of Bellingham, Washington. And last, it says, PERC conducted election proceedings. The employees were given free choice in the proceedings. The tally of results was provided to the parties. No meritorious election objections have been filed. And it says right here, the City of Bellingham employees in the bargaining unit described in finding of fact, 3 have chosen Guild of Pacific Northwest employees. And I know that was a lot, that was a mouthful, I know, but I just wanted you to see from PERC's website that our friends that are gonna be with us in a minute, they actually won this election. This is something that happened. This is something that was very real. And with that said, I'm gonna, stop sharing the screen. At this moment, I'm gonna ask one of you guys from our team to, turn off your camera because we can only have 6 people. So one of you, Liana, if you can please turn off your camera and help us, mediate the chat room so we can have access to our friends right here. And at this point, welcome right here, Mr. Dean Tharp.
Right. Hello. Good afternoon.
Let's see. Liana, you would have to, if you're listening to me, not just turn off your camera, but pretty much, exit the guest.
Livestream.
Okay.
And
Will
then
do.
help us with the chat as a member of the audience.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I'm adding Jael right now, Jael Komac. Thank you so much for being here today. Hello, Jael.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for making time for us right here. Pretty quick, you didn't see the rest of the team. We're not all of us right here, but I wanted to introduce you to Veronica. Say hello to our guest here.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Of course. Hi.
Elena.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Sorry,
Okay.
can you hear me now? Hello,
Yeah.
thank you for being here today.
All right. So just so you guys know, before we jump into the interview and allow our guests to share their story, I want to share with you real quick, share the screen to show their website. This is going to be just real quick. So you guys have an idea of what their website looks like. We're not going to read too much. I know I promise I talk a lot, but we're not going to be reading too much. We just want you to see and have a little bit of more background when it comes to them. Okay? So sharing this, you guys let me know if you can see it. Okay? Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
All righty, thank you. And for all the members of our audience right now, I know that I made a video not long ago detailing, in the last section of the video, kind of like some of their story, the backstory, and I showed this. But for those of you that have not seen this, this is the link for their website. We're going to be sharing it with you guys. And then they are the Guild of Pacific Northwest Employees. I just read to you from PERC how they, won an election against AFSCME Council 2. And this is on their website. May 13, 2020, a runoff election has been held, and City of Bellingham employees emerged victorious. And we're not going to see the tally of the voting, but I just wanted you to take a look at their website real quick so you have an idea. Thank you for being patient. So, right now we're going to proceed, and, you guys, this is a conversation, Jael and Mr. Tharp. Once again, thank you for being with us. I want you to be completely comfortable, and we understand that as we go through these questions and ask you for your experience, there are going to be things that, because of the purposes of maintaining legal integrity and some other litigation that may be happening right now with you guys, you cannot just share everything you would want to. But we're just so grateful and so honored that you're here with us to share your experience and whatever you feel like sharing with us. So this is a conversation, and at the end, we're going to have a section with some questions. So I'm going to jump ahead and start with the first question. Our team members are going to ask you some more questions. Okay. So first, Dean, Mr. Tharp, I can tell that you've been active. You've been an active advocate. Can
you hear me okay? I just want to make sure that I'm not. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, obviously, I'm not the future of the labor movement. I'm more of the past of the labor movement. So very much pleased to be here and very much in support of what you folks are doing. And if there's anything that we can offer here today to help, we'll feel good about ourselves. Right, Jael?
Yeah.
So just a little bit about myself. I have a long history in the labor movement. I've been a member of 3 unions, which has always been a good perspective. Working for a union is actually, I've been a member yourself. I've been an officer. I've been a steward. I've presented grievances on my own behalf and for others. So from there, I've also been a staff rep. I've worked in 5 different states, a long career with the AFSCME, which has started back when the Earth's crust was cooling. And through my career in AFSCME, I've worked with 5 different councils and had the opportunity to be an organizer, an organizing director. I handled arbitrations for many years. I was based in the Midwest and moved out here to join my 2 adult daughters and their families. I have grandchildren here. So I spent the twilight of my career working with the AFSCME Council 2, which ended up being a very difficult experience for me. I ended up resigning from AFSCME, retiring early. Through the years, I have a lot of good friends in AFSCME. There's a lot of really dedicated folks who are good labor leaders. But AFSCME is a very big union, and my recent experience, especially dealing with the international union, has been very difficult for me personally. People say, "Well, Dean, all the time you spent with AFSCME, what are you doing? Leaving AFSCME?" And I said, because my loyalty is to the labor movement first, and that's my priority, and that's where my heart is, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for those words. I think I did a huge intro before you came on board earlier. I said that we were very grateful for you, for you being here and for your insight, that we were gonna be learning a lot from you. And I think I applied a lot of pressure there. I didn't mean to, but I think that it's true. Everything I said is true. We do look up to both of you and your organization, what you have accomplished, everything that you're doing right now. And it's not that I just want to, throw all this pressure on you, but this is where we find ourselves right now. This is we're going through exactly the same things. As a matter of fact, with the exact same organizations, right, with AFSCME, and we definitely understand each other, and we really appreciate your presence. I really want to get that out of the way. I also would like to know more about Jael and her personal experience in all this, her background. If she can take a moment and address that for us, please.
Well, I've worked for the city of Bellingham for about 18 years. I am a GIS technician. I don't know if you guys know what GIS is, but it's basically mapping of utilities, mapping of land. And actually those skills really assisted me in being able to organize our group. And I'll get to that in a little bit. I work for Public Works, which is the largest department in our city and has the most of our membership in it. So that really assisted us in getting the word out about our efforts. I've been a union activist for about 8 years. I had a small child for the majority of my career at the city. So I really understand union members who don't have time to come to meetings and be involved as officers or stewards. But I always voted. I made sure that I paid my union dues. I just always thought that was really important to be part of the bigger team that's trying to look out for the group. There came a point where I needed to file a job audit. And when the results came back, I just thought it was very unfair. And I thought to myself, I need to get more involved, because if this is happening to me, this is happening to other members. So it's at that point that I started to get more involved. Then we had a contract where our Council 2, snuck in a dental trust run by them that was highly suspect. And then I became president, and I was president for about 8 years until I was removed by AFSCME International for seeking other representation.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. This is the beginning of a very, interesting dialogue here with us and our audience. And like Anastasia said, we're just so grateful and honored, and just learning from you guys a lot. Just by you guys being here. So, with that said, we'll move to the first question that we have for you. Can you guys hear me okay? Just Yes? Okay. So the first question, you, Mr. Tharp, have been a very active advocate for the labor movement over your career. And I read that you have been president of your local for many years. I read on your website, Jael, you were president, like you said. I also read on your website that you are one of the oldest unions in Washington State and have been in existence longer than AFSCME's Council 2. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, that puts things into perspective. So you guys were existing before you even had representation from these AFSCME's council. Now, for the first question today, how many workers do you have in the city of Bellingham represented by AFSCME Council 2? If you please, take turns answering that.
Yeah, I can help answer that. The bargaining unit is what's called a wall-to-wall bargaining unit, which is sort of a catch-all phrase for we're not police, we're not fire, we're not supervisors, we're not professional employees, we're everybody else. And that's covers many different departments of people doing a variety of different work. We've got people working in the library. We have Public Works, of which Jael is a part of. That's parks, streets, water, sewer. We have a city museum. We have workers there. We have workers spread throughout the city providing technical support, doing things like what Jael does, and also clerical support for all departments, including police, fire, and even the city cemetery. So altogether, our numbers vary, but because of the addition of summer help, I think we're about 385. I know there were less people who voted in the election, but as they move into the seasonal work, it's 385 people. So it's a pretty significant number of folks, and a lot of frisky employees sometimes who keep us very, very busy with grievances and representation issues.
We have about 23 different work sites. So, and we have people that work all different hours of the day and night. We have 24/7 operations with our water treatment, our sewer treatment. So it does make it a challenge to be able to reach out to our membership sometimes.
But the last thing I'll say is that because this local has been in existence since 1937, so I mean this was a big hurt when AFSCME lost this historical group, really. The group has been very well organized. Jael has been a fabulous leader. We have currently that leadership was transferred over to the guild, where we have 9 stewards. We have 3 officers who all who cover all the departments, all the job sites. So we're up and ready to go.
Wow. Well, you mentioned that you have stewards. That stands out to me because in my 6 years at Local 1671, we were never able to fill those positions till now. I don't think there's a steward. If I might be mistaken, and they might have elected one last election back in December of 2019. But before then, there was never any stewards. So that's very interesting.
I think, well, when I started helping out about 8 years ago, I think we only had one position filled one steward position filled, and only 2 officer positions were filled. 5 people were coming to meetings out of 400. It was dismal. And so I really made it my goal to get more participation. And there were many ways that we went about that. But the way we got more stewards is we trained people. We talked to people and we explained what it is that they do. A lot of times people think, being a steward, it's just helping people that are in trouble. Mm-hmm. And really, that's a very small amount of what you do as a steward. You're giving people a contract. You're helping them look things up in the contract, which in turn makes you more knowledgeable. You're helping people navigate your city's leave. In our case, our city's leave system. You're helping them prepare to speak to a supervisor about a difficult subject. I mean, there's so many different things that stewards do, and we make sure that they're trained. And by trained, I mean, we'll do a mock employee meeting, employer-employee meeting with the person, and just show them what good notes look like. And honestly, I think if you talk to any of our stewards, they tell you that it's actually been a really rewarding experience and they've learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So when I was running for as a candidate for president of Local 1671, something that I was promoting was to have a committee that would train new leaders, just like that. I mean, if you wanted to be a local chair, if you wanted to participate in the bargaining team or run for president, as I was, there wasn't anything out there, any structure, any special instructions on how to participate, how to gain experience in any labor movement, in any organization. There was nothing. That's not even there for anyone. You have to kind of just do it the hard way. And I think that if a leader can help produce or promote new leaders, I think that you've done a good job. If you're there for 10 years promoting yourself and just acting like a dictator, I think that goes against what I stand for. So I think coming in, I really would like to see some leadership, some training for new people, new ideas, keep everything fresh, and so they can avoid all these conflict of interest. But having said that, when you were still there at Council 2 with AFSCME, when did you first, or what was it that you saw that that didn't look right, that raised a concern, red flags, as they say? What was it that you were beginning to notice?
Well, this is only an hour. Only have an hour.
Okay.
I've thought about the red flags, and I'll describe a few of them for you. I described the dental trust in the opening. That was a huge red flag. They pushed that on our membership without a proper vote. They snuck it into a contract and didn't tell anybody about it. We had a lot of problems with claims not getting paid. And we started looking into it and suspected fraud on the part of our council. And I know that's a serious allegation, and that's why I'm making it. It is serious. It's our members' money. And the officers of the dental trust are also the same people that run the council. So there is absolutely no oversight. And our questions were never answered. So that was one big red flag. We were able to extract ourselves from that plan with our last contract. And so that really put a target on our backs. The council was very unhappy with us for doing that. And a side point about training, you talked about that a minute ago. Our council doesn't believe in training. They don't want you to be smart, because then you will know what they know. And what they know is they could be doing a lot better job, and they're not doing it. So we started paying for our own training. We're paying $250,000. We were paying $250,000 in dues per year to Council 2. That's what was being extracted in dues. And they have all over their website that they'll provide steward training and this and that, but just somehow it just never showed up. We started going to Northwest Lyra conferences. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's the Labor and Employment Relations Association. It's held at the Washington State Convention Center every year. It was just canceled because of the pandemic. But I've gone 3 years. I learned a ton. I highly recommend it. They're actually put on by PERC. It's around $300 or so for the admission. I think it's 2 days. At these conferences, you have the opportunity to speak with private and public unions, a bunch of attorneys who represent public and private. You get to speak to other cities, their HR departments, private employers. We've learned so much from them. And we also learned about what Council 2 isn't doing for us. And we learned that other locals were having the same problems that we were with Council 2. Another red flag for me was that I saw how another local president in Council 2 was being treated for simply asking financial questions. The backlash was severe. He was an elected member of the Council 2 executive board, and he was shunned on command from the president of Council 2 by the other executive board members. He was banned from an educational conference. Council 2 isolated him at other events and literally followed him around. Staff reps were assigned to follow him around like a bunch of thugs and make sure that nobody else would talk to him. It was awful. So that was a huge red flag to me. And then I don't know if you've experienced this, but we experienced backroom deals being cut between our president and our employer. We bargained for 8-9 months, and even our staff rep was shocked at how undercut he got on our last contract. See, I'll just give you 2 more. When I did ask questions, I was told by Council 2's deputy director to either accept the answers or else, in a very threatening manner. We had so many arbitrations denied. legitimate ULPs that should have gone forward didn't. And then we started making phone calls and found out that if the NLRB would have seen this grievance, they would have taken it all the way. And then it's all about money, right? In the end, it's about money. Council 2 has a budget, an annual budget of $10 million. They represent 16,000 members in the state. And they budget $16,000 for arbitrations. I don't know how they come up with that. That's $1 per member. I don't know how many arbitrations you've been involved in, but that money doesn't go very far. So it didn't surprise us when we learned that, why they keep turning down these arbitrations. So it's about service too. We were receiving no services for our money. So like I said, we only have an hour, but those were the major red flags for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Right before you jump in, Juan, just was your character ever under attack? Did they ever put that into question? I just wanted to ask that. You know, those that know me know why I'm asking this.
Oh yeah. Like when they don't even know me.
Yeah.
They don't know the rest of our board. They've accused us of, me personally, of stealing $45,000. They went and looked at every expenditure we made. We only get $11,000 back a year, and we paid them $250,000. But somehow they've decided that after they did an audit, they've decided that for the last 4 or 5 years, we've never had a quorum, or I've stolen the money. I mean, they just make things up. And they do that so that you will be intimidated and you will think this is not worth it.
Mm. Yeah, thank you again. Thank you again. It's just very refreshing to hear that come from someone else that's been involved in these types of movements, because up until now, how I feel is that we've ran for office within our local, which wasn't successful. And as far as I believe, it wasn't successful because there was other irregularities, we should say. And we voiced our complaints, and it went on to deaf ears. But to hear it coming from someone else, it's very refreshing. A lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers might be used to hearing us complain a lot, voicing our concerns of our own local, thinking that we're just a little bunch that just likes to create trouble, or as they label us, troublemakers. But no, I think in reality, this is very, very common among other locals or councils. And I think the people or our members, everyone out there, should know more about what happens.
Yes, and I'd like to just add something small. It seemed small at the time, but now I can see what they were trying to do. Council 2 won't even tell other locals within their council who they represent. They won't give us a list of who are the other locals in the council. And we have the deputy director saying on recording in our minutes that they don't want us talking to each other. Now, what kind of a union is that? Aren't you supposed to be helping each other and talking? No, I can't speak for your council or any other council. I just know about my council, my old council. They don't want you talking. They don't even staff reps. Dean, you can tell us this. Even the staff reps didn't know which locals each other represented.
Right, and the contact information of the executive board is a secret. So you have elected representatives, but you have no way of talking to them.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Oldest trick in the book. Juan, can you add something to all this? Your mic seems to be off.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. No, thank you. Just Vero has a question right now, but before she does that, I just wanted to make a quick comment on your due situation, things that you found out. As we're talking about it, just like Anastasia said, people have been listening to us, watching our videos, and sometimes people think we're just complaining, or we have been called by whoopsie sore losers because we didn't win an election. And as you're talking about these things, Jael, I'm just like, my body has muscle memory. I'm relieving some of that stress, but also some of that experience, and I can relate so much to what you have been going through. I do remember, just to end this comment, in January 2019, I was actually at a statewide meeting for Local 1671. I was invited to be a presenter to present a continuing education workshop for interpreters. And when they were going through their program, I remember asking a question, and other members asked, we only get a very small percentage as interpreters from our dues that we could use as a local, about 8%. Anastasia could give you the right numbers. And I remember the question was asked, what can we do so our local union can keep more of those dues, more of that, so we could have bargaining team members, reimbursed with more time loss, hotel expenses, stuff like that, expenses as a local. We were told that's pretty much impossible. You have to go to a convention, and all unions in the country have to vote unanimously. They have to vote to change that in the Constitution. So we were just shut down immediately. And I'm not going to say they were disrespectful to interpreters, but I do remember that they had zero tolerance for that question, and it was just shut down immediately. So when you're talking about this, oh boy, we can relate. And the character assassination that we went through just by asking these questions, it's just like they're parallel to your experience. It's just like, we're listening to you talk, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm reliving all of it once again. Go ahead, Vero.
Like Juan has said, we can relate with a lot of what you have said, Joe. If I remember correctly, I would like to add to what Juan just said. But I believe it was Anastasia at one of the meetings that brought it up as well, one of our statewide meetings, and asked about our union dues and where they were going and if there was any way that we could get more. And we were quickly shut down. If I remember correctly, we were told there is no more time. We cannot touch that right now. It is not a part of the agenda. And they moved on, and the question completely got discarded. But now that we're talking about union dues, I would like to ask that once you guys became aware that something fishy was going on with your union dues, what was the steps you guys took? What did you guys do? Did you guys file a complaint internally?
Well, the first step, I think Jael mentioned that we were observing another local, an executive board member who was asking questions on behalf of the Bellingham local. He filed an internal, well, first he made a request for financial information, including the names of the staff and where they're located and what duties they have and how many employees they had, and also what was the salaries of these folks. He got no answer. And what he got back was basically lies that we're not going to give this to you because we think you're a tool of the Freedom Foundation. Now this gentleman is a very strong, committed labor advocate. And when he didn't get the information, then he filed an internal complaint with the International. International heard the complaint, also heard the rumors that he was a tool of the Freedom Foundation, and declined to give him the information, which is a complete violation of the AFSCME Constitution. So when that was seen, the Bellingham local then also filed their own request, was never answered. And both locals then filed a federal lawsuit against AFSCME International, against the council, to have this information released to them. To this day, we've never seen any information. Right, Jael?
That's right.
All right.
I think we have a countdown on our website.
So there was, okay, so what about these internal complaints? The internal complaints basically is why bother? Because the system is rigged. This international judicial panel is, the members of the panel basically, these are favors that are granted by the president, who appoints these people, who either, he's got to reward them somehow. I'm not quite sure exactly the process they use, but it has nothing to do with, I think, their judicial temperament. So they all owe additional income. It pads their retirement. They travel all over the country hearing these cases. And some of the cases, if it's member to member, you may get some justice. But if it's a member accusing a staff, forget it. Okay, there is no way. What happened to the judicial panel complaints that were filed against us, every single, and I'm talking about the Bellingham members, every single one of them was heard, scheduled, and decided on. And every single judicial panel complaint that was filed by a member against a staff member, none of them were heard, none of them were scheduled, some of them were ignored, some of them they sat on, some of them we don't even know what happened to them, okay? That's the AFSCME judicial panel, okay? And I'm telling you this, and you can probably go on our website and you can see exactly what a mess that is. So, you know, trying to track down the dues money, we had to go to the internet, we had to go to the IRS and look up their Form 990s to discover exactly where our money's going. Significantly, the president of Council 2 is making $400,000 a year. That's his compensation. Deputy director, $350,000. The lawyer up around the 200s. I mean, it's an outrage. It's an absolute outrage. And that was a big issue, I think, with a lot of people saying, "You're not going to tell us." I mean, but now we know. Now we know why you're not telling us, and what else are you hiding? That was the big problem. And when the international is backing these people, then all of a sudden we feel like they're complicit in this. You know, there's an old phrase that if once you cover for them, you become one of them, and that's how we see the international. They're covering for these people. Why, we don't know.
Yeah, we never thought that AFSCME International was the problem. In fact, another member and we were going to spend our own money. We almost had the tickets bought to fly to Washington, D.C., because we were certain that if we could just talk to President Lee Saunders and explain to him, just like we're talking to you now, look at what's happening in Washington with Council 2 and President Dugovich. Things are not okay. He's going to cost you members. People are going to leave because of his behavior. But then we saw how AFSCME International started backing what Dugovich was doing. So in the beginning, we never thought that the international, we just thought they didn't know. But it's clear at this point, it became clear to us, they do know, and that they're just going to back their council presidents. I don't know why they're doing that, and I hope they stop, because it's bad. It's bad business. But we had to leave. We just couldn't wait.
If it wasn't for the guild coming forward and employees trying to take over their own situation, and I see some replication of feeling on your part too. You know, it's going to kill the labor movement if it keeps up like this. It will kill us as a labor movement. The labor movement's already struggling. We don't need this.
Good point. Good point. And I see there's a question there that's being presented by Kurt Juno. Oh, yeah. Not to mention the real estate bought with union money. There's a lot of things that get supported with our union dues, things that we might not agree with, you know, a lot of political things, a lot of things that aren't relevant to you individually or at all. So yeah, that's a whole different segment that we can go into. I think we have another question that's going to be proposed by Elena in regards to some of those wrongdoings or things that we were subject to while we were still there. If you can present that question, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Elena again, and I would like to share the following. I protested the following recent election with Local 1671, our former local union, and I was an election committee official and protested the behavior of some members of the committee during the election process, including the counting of the votes. As the protest elected, they escalated. They were asking me why I was acting like that, like asking questions about how they were acting. Did you experience something similar?
Yes, we have. Like I said, I've been attacked extensively. And, you know, just on a personal note, I find that the attacks actually embolden me because it allows me to expose them for what they are, which is bullies. If you look at our website, I'm like to post their ridiculousness as much as possible, because it shows people that it's not just me saying it. This is a man who is being paid $400,000 a year, and he cannot put a sentence together. He cannot manage people. He cannot be professional at all. So I just, if they're embarrassed by what the truthful answer to a question is that I am asking, then they need to change their behavior. And if they aren't willing to do that, then they just turn around and attack the question asker instead. So yes, I ask a lot of questions and I do get attacked. In our situation, many of our members wanted to leave right away. They saw the behavior of, in particular, of the deputy director when he would come up to our meetings. But we had a couple things in play there. As public employees, we have a timeline that we had to follow. We can't just bail. Council 2 can, and they threatened to do that. In April of 2019, the deputy director, Pat Thompson, came up to our meeting and told us to, quote, holster our weapons, and that if we didn't start behaving, we would never get a staff rep assigned, and that Council 2 would just write a letter to PERC and they would be done with us. Now, I thought, I was the president sitting up at the front at that moment, and I thought to myself, there's no way. We're under contract. There's no way that they can just write a letter to PERC and drop us. But we checked with PERC, and that is yet another loophole in Washington state law. They can drop us, and they would leave us out on a limb. So we had, unbeknownst to me, other people in our union, other members, were formulating a plan B to allow us to have a soft place to land in case they carried through on their threat. But for me as a president, even though knowing that the members were upset, it was important for me personally to give Council 2 time to acknowledge that their behavior was wrong and change it. And I wanted to work to change it from within. I was committed to hanging in there until the state convention in 2019. Then the state convention came. We had around 6 or 7 members that attended. It was in Marysville. It was an absolute train wreck. I had high hopes that with all of these question answering or asking and spotlight from the international on them, that they would do this right. But even though the people from the international were there to observe the whole thing, they did nothing to stop the election rigging and improper behavior. Some of the things that happened there were members stood at the microphone to speak. They were not recognized. That was a big thing to me because AFSCME likes to say how they're so democratic, yet they do not do any training. They don't show their council presidents how to run a convention. They don't know Robert's Rules of Order. They do not recognize members when they want to speak. And that was a big deal for me. The way, I don't know if this is true for other councils, but the way President Dugovich does it is he requires all of his paid staff representatives to become dues-paying members of at least one of the locals that they represent. And this way they can carry the proxies of entire locals to the convention and they cast the vote to vote their boss back in. And throughout the years, our local attendance was not encouraged, and they don't really care if you participate. They just want continuity of leadership from a council perspective, and it's just not about serving the members. It's about getting the money, plain and simple. Now, what Juan's showing you is the convention protest that Local 114 filed on August 12th. You can read all the details there on our website. But one of the big things was they didn't even hold it in the right month. Again, this is a guy that gets paid $400,000 and he can't even read his own constitution to see what month it's supposed to be held in, how much notice is supposed to be given. We weren't the
Sorry, that sounds very familiar, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah. Well, no one holds them accountable. They just do what they want. So there's quite a few issues in here, but the big point I wanted to make too is that we weren't the only ones that filed this. There were several other locals that did it as well. And when Brother Richard Abelson, the judicial panel chair from Washington, D.C., flew in and held the hearing on this, all these items he found did not really happen, pretty much, except when one of our members tried to distribute a campaign flyer at an event, he did find Chris guilty of basically taking that away from him and saying, you can't distribute that because it says something negative about me. It talks about my salary, so you can't distribute it. He did find that was a violation of freedom of speech, but you can read the whole decision.
We also, Jael, one of the big things too is that there was a sacrificial candidate that was nominated to run against him. None of his supporters were allowed to speak, and he was not allowed to speak at the convention. That's democracy.
Yes, and the decision, thank you, Dean, the decision was to rehold the election, and they messed that up too. They didn't allow our person to run against Chris at Dugovich, and so guess what? Now Council 2 members are stuck with him again for 4 years at $1.6 million.
What? Wow. Wow. Wow.
And the international apparently thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
Business as usual.
Right. I mean, they ordered him to. They ordered a re-election with 2 candidates. They said all candidates remain the same. You just have to meet and decide again. And they rigged the convention, so magically the other candidate didn't appear on the ballot. So pretty easy to win an election if there's only one person on the ballot. And this is a true story.
Wow. So you guys, I mean, we cannot just say this enough. We're just reliving our whole process, especially
sorry. Yeah. From our faces, right?
I'm sitting here thinking, are we talking about the same local? Because that's exactly what it sounds like.
Real quick, I know we have to go through the next 3 questions, but I just want to say real quick, Elena, Anastasia, myself, we went through so many personal attacks, called sore losers, just being portrayed in a negative light. Anastasio got an incident where another candidate was distributing flyers about some negative information about him. It's just, it's like, wow, are we twins? Were we separated at birth? We're listening to you. We're like, what? There's like a parallel universe that we're living in the same earth. It's
well, if it would make you feel any better, I can make a whole section of our website with just copies of all Chris Dugovich's memos about me and Dean. And then you can read it all.
Yeah, no. I believe we're going to go through something like that. And Anastasia, if you want to add what you had to say before I go to the next question.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's more the same. It's besides the fact that this is like shocking to hear about. And as you put it, it's a true situation. It's something that happened, and hearing it from you directly, it's very eye-opening more than anything. But from our supporter or independent interpreter point of view, I really would like them to take all this information. The first thing that comes to my mind is this is why independent L&I interpreters do not trust unions. They have never been represented by any union. And this is why they're skittish. They hear the word union and they run. They hear the word whoopsie, they run farther. And this is the uphill battle that we have encountered in organizing, because they really run from whoopsie like if it was the plague. And now we have to prove ourselves. This is why we don't take money. This is why we don't take money from anyone. We don't, take any kind of funds, because we want to be transparent. We want to make sure that they know that we're for real. We're not after their money. We don't want to speak for them just because we want to. We want to be their voice. We want to be their voice to be reflected. Everything that they're looking for in a union, we want to offer that to them. This just brings a bunch of different mixed feelings to me, because it's happened to you guys, it's happening to us, and it's really hard sometimes to stay cool.
Yeah.
During all this stuff. So, it's really.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that's right. And then, as Anastasio said, we have encountered this, apathy from interpreters from an organizing standpoint. When I was organizing with WFC, I believe that because they offered us to have our own local unions separately from the local that we didn't agree with, I believe that time that was the best choice for us. And, as we went through the process of organizing, then becoming candidates and discovering some of this corruption, kind of like the same way you guys have been doing, we realized, there is no hope here. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight, because a lot of LNI interpreters, well, I'm not going to say a lot, but some LNI interpreters are concerned, like, okay, well, you guys were part of the problem. Now you want to help us. And it's like, you guys talking about these things, about your experience, shows them the process that we wanted to go through, because we wanted to do the right thing. We went through the appeal process. We appealed to their leaders. They are the biggest union that represents, workers here. So we wanted to work it out and be a big family, but they didn't allow us. And so that brings me to my next question. It looks like from what you're saying at this point, you guys pretty much, I guess you guys reached the point of no return, right? As we did after the election.
Let me talk about that, because the point of no return is really kind of a rolling point of no return. It all depends on what people's individual experiences were and how they arrived at that conclusion. I think there were some people very early on, when the first questions that were asked by the executive board member weren't answered, and they saw what happened to them. A lot of people said, "We got to leave now. Okay, this union has gone sideways." Other people, our members, I don't think were really, understood, although the leadership understood what was happening. It was, as the members took more interest and witnessed some of these things themselves, I think, obviously that people started to get a little educated. When the International, I think I said this before, but when the International decided to back not the members, but the staff, that was a big turning point. That actually prompted the founding of the guild. The members came to me. I had been retired at that point in time, and they said, "Dean, can you help us?" And I said, "Sure." So that's what got the guild started in the embryonic days. I think, Jael, you probably agree with me, that abandonment, when they were going to abandon the local entirely, I thought that was a significant moment. I think a lot of people saw the behavior of the paid staff and the arrogance that they had towards the membership, and they were starting to go behind Jael's back and trying to cultivate maybe an alternative candidate that they could run against her. And people, respect Jael, and that's reciprocated, and they know that she's battling for her. So when these personal attacks started to happen, I think there was a lot of people going, who are these people, and why are they doing this to us? And then finally, that the election, that was it. I think that was the nail in the coffin. Just watching, this charade that they call an election. And I have to agree, about AFSCME and democracy. Over 35 years, I've been an AFSCME member, and how many presidents, international presidents, have we had? 2. Okay, that's 35 years, 2 presidents. So if AFSCME claims it's a democratic union, where are the races? So it's a big, you really have to look at the facts and not the rhetoric.
Yeah, where's Jimmy Hoffa?
Right, and this week, the former president of the UAW, United Auto Workers, has pled guilty for embezzlement. So these are when these are things that are not helping the labor movement at all. They're hurting us. So.
Completely agree with you. Juan?
Yeah, no. I just have to say that's amazing. It's just more of the same, and just hearing that, for more than 35 years, you've been there, your experience. It tells people that you don't just give up when something is going wrong. We're not. I think we're similar in this regard. We're not hotheads. We just didn't want to do this because we wanted our own benefit, because we wanted to be famous, because we wanted to make money. We just saw, individually as workers, this is not working anymore. And so if this is not working for me, it's not working for my fellow colleagues, my fellow workers, which I have a relationship with. And so, people like us, we feel an obligation to do something about it, not only to protect our jobs, but to help, our fellow colleagues, which, we see every day. So it's very important that people understand this. That's why, part of the reason why we wanted you guys to join in and see that, we're not alone in this fight.
Well, we appreciate that. It's
yes.
So right, and just the other thing, that tipping point also is personal for me. When I was on staff and they were asking me to be, complicit in their fraud and denying these grievances, I had to make a moral and ethical decision. Like I can't work without having some backing, and I also can't work for an organization which is actually working, at cross purposes and trying to serve its own members. So I got out early. That was my point of no return. I couldn't work for them anymore. So, all right. Well, I know that we're kind of running out of time here. So,
Anastasia.
Yeah, no. I'm still just following what you're saying. To me, I'm just like another follower, a viewer. I'm just like into this, hearing you out. I'm just completely intrigued. We talked about this before, but hearing all these details now, it just puts everything into perspective. I just can't believe these things happen. I mean, I know that there's other places where these types of things happen, but I never expected to find them within a union like ours. I mean, or I just thought everything was clear, everything was transparent. There weren't any, weird things happening in the shady alleys and stuff like that. But it's just more of the same. I'm kind of speechless, and I'm never speechless. I'm an interpreter. We're all interpreters. I always have something to say in regards to it, but I have to also watch what I say here. As you know, everything that comes out of our mouths is usually twisted, and that's another thing that that they tend to do. They grab things and say that we're accusing them of all this stuff. But we lived it, and we experienced it. It's very it was a very you could say strong and emotional time when we were running during the campaign, to hear all these attacks, and it's part of running for a position like that. But it's something that you can't get used to. It's something that you can't believe is happening, and especially from your own colleagues sometimes and your own members. But I also have another question, taking into consideration that I consider you a subject matter expert in all this. I mean, you're a treasure trove of information. I would love to pick your brain further, and I don't know which one of you to ask first, because you both have been extremely busy doing all these things, participating in. But what did you feel, or how did you decide to move forward? Did your members or your colleagues, how many of them supported you is what I want to say. What percentage of the membership actually saw things like you did?
Well, excuse me. Well, so we have to show PERC a showing of interest, and when we first attempted to get that showing of interest, we started on a Monday, and by Wednesday we had 75% of the cards signed. We had built a huge network. We had an organizing committee of 15 people embedded in every single department. We had met, and some of our members may be watching this and they don't even know the extent that the organizing was taking place. But we had met sometimes weekly in the evenings. We and when I say, well, it was leadership, but I don't just mean officers. I mean people within the membership who were leaders, meaning they knew something was wrong and they wanted to do something to fix it. And we had a phone bank built. We decided to build out a website. We paid for a constant contact site where we track people's emails and we make sure that we communicate with them that way. We have a text message bank. Let's see. We make a lot of phone calls. We had overwhelming support of our members. We did have a handful of people who were not fans of us leaving AFSCME, and I respect that. I think these people didn't know the extent of how hard we tried to get answers from AFSCME and how much we had worked internally to solve these problems. But it's okay. You're going to have people that just don't understand what you're doing and will vote no, and that's all right. But we had a vast majority of people who were 100% behind us because they saw how Council 2 attacked them for electing us as leaders, and that was Council 2 basically fired themselves.
Yes, thank you. And the reason why I wanted to know something like that is because a lot of people that are still there with our old union or our old local, or people that are not even members of any organization, they have a genuine fear. The ones that are still members, they have a fear that, maybe we're not competent enough. We don't have the skill set, that we don't have the experience. That's what's been told, even though we participated at every level within our own union, even though we ran for president and vice president, even though Veronica won an election by a landslide there as a 3-year term treasurer. Sorry, what was it? Sorry, it was a trustee. There you go. Yes, and Elena participated as part of the committee, election committee. Even though we've been all over the place, they still have the nerve or the tenacity to put it out there that we don't have the experience. So a lot for all these people that are still members there, and that they feel the fear of supporting us or knowing that there's life after, wherever they're in. And then for the members that are not for the interpreters that are not members of any organization, what kind of message could you tell them, taking us into consideration?
Well, a few of these members who were against moving to the guild have still not signed cards with us yet. Mm-hmm. And they may never sign cards with us yet. Mm-hmm. But as we know from recent laws passed, we will still represent them and do our very best to make sure that they're properly represented. We still are going to negotiate their contract and we're going to do our very best. What doesn't help is we have people like President Chris Dugovich, who we thought we were done with, but just recently he wrote a letter, actually on the day that we were certified as the exclusive bargaining representative. He wrote a letter that I believe Juan has that encourages guild members to opt out, which is a direct message of the Freedom Foundation, which hurts the labor movement for all of us. They just keep accusing. They've accused us for a year of working with the Freedom Foundation, which is 100% not true. We wouldn't be here if we didn't firmly believe in the labor movement. You guys know how hard how much work and time that you put into making your group better. So anyway, I'm going to post that letter on our website later tonight so that you can read it. He has not retracted his letter, and he's encouraging these people who voted no, which there are a few, to opt out, like I said. And Lee Saunders, the international president, has slapped him down for that letter, but he's not taking any action to stop Dugovich from hurting the labor movement in Washington state. And that hurts everybody. That hurts your council. That hurts Council 2. That hurts union members all over the state and possibly country. So anyway, I feel like they should spend their time, leave us alone. We're gone now. You guys will be gone soon. They need to focus on fixing their own problems within. As far as a message to your members who maybe feel that you don't have the experience, we got the same, that's probably coming from your council, I'm guessing. The same kind of thing came from our council. It's probably just something out of the playbook. I don't believe any of our members really believe that. They see us in action all the time. They see us, we're the ones representing them at disciplinary meetings. We're the ones answering their phone calls at night. They know that we know what we're doing. And if we don't know the answer, we're going to find it. We have people with the caliber, with Dean's caliber, who is our interim staff rep right now. We're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think that I could see the fire in the belly of people on the screen, and hopefully who are watching today. One thing that got me through this personally is watching this committee in action, watching the hard work and dedication of these folks. And I think your members are going to see that you care. And I think our members saw that our leaders cared as well. And that was so significant to me. It helped me get through all this because they were throwing a lot at us. I'm only one guy. They had 3 lawyers working on this thing, and it got to be pretty serious some days. And I had one ex-president. He would call me almost every other day asking me how I was doing. Usually I was doing fine, but I sure appreciated the help and support, and the support the committee gave each other as we were engaged basically in guerrilla warfare with AFSCME. I mean, they would throw things at us. We didn't win every fight, but sometimes in guerrilla warfare, you lose every battle, but you win the war. And this group hung together, and together is the operative word here, and managed to prevail. And I know, and you folks can do the same thing. I mean, we have to. Okay, we have to change the labor movement. I think it's our duty, and I think it's our responsibility. Things are going sideways with the labor movement. We are losing people. People don't understand it. We are gaining enemies. We don't need that. We need each other. And we are so stoked that you folks are doing what you're doing. And if there's anything that we can do to help you along this journey, it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be tough. I saw a comment, the thick skin. Yeah, you're gonna need a thick skin for everything they throw at you. But if you have each other, you can get through it. So.
And I don't care how big of an organization that this is or who somebody is. If they're doing something wrong and there's something you can do to stand up to this intimidation and bullying behavior, then do it. And the more people that will do it with you, the better. You need as many people in your profession to come together with you, to sign their name to the things that you're presenting. It's so much more visible and helpful when you have 50 names instead of 10 or whatever the case may be. And you guys can do it. I mean, we're thrown so many curves. We were given so many delays. We went from electronic ballots to paper ballots in the middle of a pandemic, and we still managed to pull it off. So I know that you guys can do it. I have every confidence in the world.
Thank you. Juan, your mic?
Yes, I'm Mike. I'm beyond excited. I couldn't share the letter. I had a technical difficulty, but that's okay. I'm going to, since we have permission, I am going to share that letter later with our audience in an email. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. I just have a question, but you guys have pretty much answered this question. And I just wanted to tell you, that I have been very encouraged. Not only when I read that you guys defeated AFSCME Council 2, finally independent, you probably were concerned, afraid of going against, the big giant, the Goliath, but you guys, as David, you just threw that stone. You threw that stone and you guys prevailed. And so, the kind of message that I wanted to hear was, for a group of workers like ourselves, that we want to achieve the same. You just answered it. It is possible. Your testimony, your experience, what I read, your guys' testimony here with us, it's just such an encouragement. I have learned so much today. I think we all feel the same here. I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think we all feel the same. And I'm so very grateful that you guys have done this and that you have offered, to share some resources with us as well. We're very happy to share whatever we can with you, help you in any way, collaborate, create, some more live streams together, work with your union. I think, like Dean said, the future of the labor movement it's at stake. And, I do see that we have to become more independent and have, more smaller independent groups that step away from that format that has been failing for all these, big unions before. So with that said, I just, I'll leave the rest of our team members, express what they wanted to say. But thank you so much. Thank you for the audience.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. But if our colleagues can say something too before we begin closing.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us and showing us that we're not alone, because I think for a while, many of us felt like we were alone, like nobody else had reached out or had gone. We felt it was a new path. And it seems like you guys have shown us that the path is there. We just have to get on it and walk it. Your mic.
Sorry, I forget that it's mute. Thank you so much for all your time and all your support and for letting us know that everything we do, it's for the right thing. Sometimes people, it's questioning and letting us think that what we're doing is wrong, but no, I think we're going towards the right path. So thank you so much for all your advice.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how grateful we are. Jael, Dean, we appreciate your presence. We appreciate your insights. We're going to take everything we're learning. We have our experience, but we're also open to learning on anything that has to do with our cause. And we're so full of energy now. We've been recharged. We're ready to go at it some more.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. So
yeah, we really
we're here for you.
Yeah. Now we're going to move into maybe the closing part here, and we're going to talk about our card, our authorization card a little bit.
Yes.
Right. So I will say goodbye and good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Liana, if you're listening and you want to join in again with your camera, you're welcome to do so. Yes, we'll take a couple more minutes. I know we went over time a little bit, but this was so informative, so very important, so interesting. And I just, if you give us, a couple more minutes, we're going to be done pretty quick. But I'll be sharing that card. I shared the link through the chat, but I'm gonna put it up and screen share it so you guys can see it as well. If you give me a minute, and maybe Google Chrome allows me to do so because we had a technical difficulty with that, but I will be sharing it right. Yeah.
And while you do that, maybe I can share a little bit of information with our viewers, with our supporters on the importance of supporting our movement, which we always say is their movement as well. This is our authorization card for Washington interpreters. If you fill this card out and you send it back to us, you check the L&I field and any other respective field there that applies to you. Sign it if you've worked the L&I assignment in the last year, or plan on working or covering an L&I assignment in this year. Please fill out this card. This is how you can support our movement. This is the first way you can support our movement. One way is by watching us in these podcasts, staying in touch and know what our next steps are. You can also stay in touch and know when the election is going to happen. When we reach a certain percentage of these authorization cards, we're going to prompt an election. So it's very important that you follow us, that you stay in touch, that you communicate with us, share your emails with us. So you fill this card out, you send it to us. Then when the time comes, hopefully soon, I believe it's going to be soon, that we have the majority of these cards and we prompt this election. As Juan stated earlier, you're going to get a ballot in the mail. This is probably going to happen, when you least expect it. As we all know, we're going through some crazy social unrest. We're going through a pandemic. We're going through stay-home orders. We have all kinds of troubles going on in our daily lives. But this is about your employment. This is about the future of your employment. This is about getting behind a movement, supporting it, and this is how you do it. You stay in touch with us. You fill out this card. This is very helpful. This is how you do it. So if you wanted to know how, this is the way. One of the ways. When the election actually happens, you'll receive this ballot in the mail. You'll see Washington interpreters as an option, and by all means, that is the moment of truth. Please vote for us then, if that's what you believe is in your best interest, and we hope that it is. We would like to have earned your trust and in us, in our movement by then, or maybe now. And please support our movement. This is how you do it.
Thank you. If I may add something real quick, Anastasio's completely right, nothing to add to it, but this is about the card right here. Some people have questions about how to fill the card, how to fill it out, and how to send it either by mail or email. You can choose both. I posted instructions right here on the chat, but if you can't read them, I'll post them again. But basically, you fill out this information right here: first name, last name, your address, your cell phone, your email address, and then if you did appointments with PSHS and LNI, okay. Now, here's one thing: some interpreters want to support us, but they have not covered an LNI appointment because they either don't have a provider number or do not contract with an agency that offers them LNI jobs. This is pretty simple. You can still check the LNI box right here and check yes, even if you have not taken a job, because all you have to do is, after you say yes here and check the card, go ahead and go to the US LNI Services portal anytime you can and accept an LNI job. It's going to be available. Or talk to us. We can help you with that process. We have a way of sharing appointments, or we can hook you up with one of our local agencies that may be offering appointments as well. But the main idea is, if you take an appointment anytime after January 1st, 2019, you do qualify for this selection. So, hopefully you will take that appointment before the election. If you check yes, we can help you with that process. That's all I wanted to add right now, before closing. Guys?
One little piece. Just in case you don't know, or you just came across this movement, if you didn't know anything about us, we have our website. You can go there. You can get to know us a little bit more. We have our YouTube channel. You can watch them from the beginning. Juan has a very established YouTube channel with all the previous videos, with all the information, developments things that we participated in from Olympia, with the legislature, with senators. We've done it all since February and before. You can get to know us. You can get to really understand that we are interpreters just like you. We're not paid staff. No one is paying us to do this. We're doing this as volunteers. We do it on our spare time. Many people out there wonder, how is it that we do all this stuff? They don't know how we pay for these platforms. They're boggled by how we get to Olympia and represent our interest there and your interest. They don't understand how we get out these flyers to you with paid postage. They don't understand how we do all this legwork. And guess what? Our strategies, okay, are right here. They're in our heads. We're a very close-knit group. We won't reveal our strategies, but one thing is for sure. It's a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Hard work and time. Every single face you see here sacrifices countless hours of their personal time during the week, on the weekend, to make sure that all these communications, all this work reaches you. And we work full time, most of us as interpreters. We're not out there trying to say something we're not. We're trying to practice what we preach at all times. And I just want to make sure that you do your research, that you know that we're an option, that you know that we're from the ground up interpreters, not a old politically established union just wanting your money. And this is who we are. So get to know us. Hopefully we earn your support. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you girls want to say something before we end it?
Well, I would just like to thank everybody once again for spending some of their Saturday with us, for hanging in there for 2 hours. And we hope that the information that was given today helped you guys see things that maybe you guys didn't see before, because like I said, I thought we were alone. Apparently we're not alone. There's other people that have walked this path, and we just hope that you guys will be willing to help us walk that path and will walk it with us. Thank you for joining us today.
Elena?
No, I think just thank you for being here today, and we prepare all this information so you guys can be more informed of what we're doing and what we're planning to do. And this goal is to help us and to help us each other.
All right. Well, thank you guys once again. You guys have a really, really great rest of your weekend, and we will be in touch with you through email with our next activities. Thank you so much. Bye.
Superstars.